I would really like to know what you're going to do to protect those programs for your constituents.
Well,
And how he's cozying up to Putin.
Fiery town halls for Congressman Glenn Grothman in the Fox Valley. Republicans in some red districts across the country seeing the same a month into the new Trump administration. This as the House narrowly passed a high-stakes budget resolution that would require up to $2 trillion in spending cuts over the next decade to help pay for President Trump's proposed tax cuts.
With that, let's now bring in Congressman Glenn Grothman from Washington. Congressman, welcome back to the show. Like always, good to see you.
yeah, up front.
We will get to the town hall that took place last week. First, I want to start with the budget resolution the House passed this past week and get right into some of these numbers. How do Republicans say we're going to find $2 trillion in savings without cuts to Medicaid?
Well, we believe that there are a lot of different possibilities out there. And I know President Trump, who is the leader of our party, has made it clear that he would prefer not to cut Medicaid. So I think we will have to dig in and look. We've heard a lot of stories about employees here in the Washington area, maybe not in putting in 40 hours of work. And I'm sure there are a lot of savings there.
Can you guarantee, Congressman, can Republicans guarantee as we sit here today that there will not be cuts to Medicaid?
You know, we've got 219 people who are going to make that decision. I'm not for cuts to Medicaid, but when we all get together, we'll just have to see where we wind up. Obviously, what is done to a certain extent depends upon tax cuts. It depends upon spending that may be happening 3 or 4 years out. So there are all sorts of things that go in there. I can just tell you, I don't want to cut Medicaid, and President Trump doesn't want to cut Medicaid.
Is there anything that Elon Musk and his team at Doge have done or are doing that concerns you?
No, I think they're shining a light on things like government employees here that might not be working an entire 40 hours a week. And I think they are going to look at the Department of Defense, which I want them to do, shine a new light on things, and I think they're going to find cost savings there as well.
Do you want Elon Musk to go even further? I mean, should there be any limit to his power?
His power comes from the president. I mean, he has no power by himself other than any other advisor to the president would have. And obviously, given his financial background, his intelligence, you want him looking at these numbers. Not to mention, I think he brings a given amount of credibility to the federal budget that your average congressman does not. And he can get Congress to move on items that the average congressman cannot. So I think we're fortunate to have him there. And the impact he has on the next budget will be determined on the votes that Congress takes.
I was going to say, you don't feel like he's infringing on the power of Congress at this point?
He's advising us. I think this idea that there's something unique going on is preposterous. Every president has dozens, maybe more than dozens, of advisors who are not confirmed. Before
you go, Congressman, I want to ask you about your town halls up in the Fox Valley last week. When was the last time you saw packed rooms like that?
It's not something that we have had lately. Obviously, with the new presidency, I think there's a lot of anger among some Democrats. But I can tell you, if you didn't look at the town hall, if you just went to the Friday night fish fries I attend, or the fundraisers for the schools or various service groups, overall, we got very positive feedback on what we're doing in Washington.
You obviously weren't alone in packed town halls across the country. Do you see this as any type of warning sign to Republicans ahead of the midterms?
Well, it shows that the Democrats are enthusiastic. I think there's some things that I would not necessarily agree with that have been out there on the legacy media. But we know that a lot of the Democrats don't like Elon Musk. They don't like Donald Trump. And if they are told to show up for a rally, they will show up for a rally. And I think the Democrat Party is very connected with a lot of government employees. And the fact that President Trump and Elon Musk have said maybe some of these jobs are not necessary obviously riles up the Democrat Party, who in general likes to see more and more people working for the government.
Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman. Congressman, like always, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Glad to be on up front.
Up next, Marquette's president heads to Washington.